Welcome to the 133rd episode of the Supernatural Occurrence Studies Podcast.
So at times paranormal.
My name is Jason Knight, host of the show, and with me, as always, is
Oscar Spector.
Producer extraordinaire and podcast co-host. Listeners, if you want to skip this banterous intro, go to the show notes and find a timestamp. It'll get you right to the topic. Oscar, sorry, did I catch you off guard?
Banterous. We just started. Now we're bantering right now, but we weren't before. That's just all the scripted intro that we do every time.
Banterous.
Is that a word?
I sure hope so.
I really, yeah. No one check that.
Yeah, we're gonna get email on that one.
I don't think so. Anyway.
The word came to me today when I was in the shower. Banterous.
That's what you think of in the shower? That's what comes to you in the shower? These are shower thoughts?
It was a shower thought. And so, God, I hope it's legit.
Yeah. You know what I'm not very good at? And I've heard this from people in my life travels, right? I've heard from people that it's, for some people, it's common to jerk off in the shower.
Whoa.
And the idea for this is, I guess, among many things, is that maybe they start doing it when they're teenager, right? Prepubescent or whatever, and then getting all the hormones. And they did it in the shower because it's the only privacy, right, that they maybe have or had back then. They couldn't have their own room, maybe. Maybe it was too crowded or just too afraid of getting caught. But in the shower, right, you're by yourself. So I think a lot of people did that and it just stuck. And so there's a population out there, not me, mind you, that does that. Not that I'm saying that I'm like, I could never, but it's just, and my first response was that before they told me that, my first response was is that because you can clean yourself right away? Because you're showering? It's wow. Is that a logic thing, Or do people have absolutely no time in their day to think of this kind of by themselves and their own thoughts in the shower?
Multitasking it's what we do today.
That's what we do. I do it all the time.
I don't know. I have no answer. I don't know.
Well, it just made me think of all this.
I'm very uncomfortable right now.
Why? Don't be you and I both don't do it, based on your reaction anyway. So, yeah, who cares?
I brush my teeth in the shower. That's not really the same thing, but that's weird.
I never heard that before. I've heard this jerking off in the shower way more than the toothbrush thing.
Oh yeah, dude! I brush my teeth in the shower.
Do you make salads in the shower like Kramer and shit? No. You have a garbage disposal thing at the bottom of your.
I remember that episode. I'm a big Seinfeld fan. That's awesome.
I know. Seinfeld jokes always work with you.
Good callback.
What else can people? I know you shave in the shower. You shave, right?
Yep, shave in the shower. Right. Brush my teeth in the shower.
I've tried that, but it's hard for me. I can't. It just doesn't work well. Because I need a good mirror, and I'm blind, and I don't wear my glasses in the shower. That makes no sense. I can't see anything, even if I did. It's just backwards world. Anyway, the shower thing reminded me of that, and I just want to say, any shower jerkers out there, let me know. I'm making a list. Okay, that's it.
And there you go.
That's all I want.
Let us know.
Yeah.
At ChicagoGhostPodcast.com.
Right. So what you been up to?
Oh my God. Nice segue. And this is why listeners want a timestamp.
Well, I would hope not.
What have I been up to? God, nothing. Just work. Nothing interesting has happened in 2 weeks. I could honestly say that.
Nothing interesting, that's new or different or worthwhile.
Right?
Because you do a lot of things. You do a lot, but.
We do, but nothing. Yeah, nothing really worthwhile. The weather's been nice, so getting outside more, which is great. We're in total vacation mode. In a week and a half, we'll be heading down to New Orleans. We're really excited about that. But other than that, nothing much, man. Nothing much.
Yeah, no, I get that. For me, it's I've been entertaining myself when I'm not writing. Or when I'm trying to write and I fail and I start doing other things, because there's only so much I can stare at a blank piece of paper or something before I give up, right? And say okay, I don't have it today. I'm going to do something else. Of course, I'm talking about our research stuff. beyond that stuff and work, and I'm trying to see friends more often than I do because I'm kind of a shut up. No, because I go out, but I'm kind of like I'm a loner, right? But I've been kind of forcing myself to hang out with people more. Besides that stuff, I've been playing some pretty cool games. I want to say I'm playing a game that involves a cult, and we talked about cults recently on this show. I've been doing that. It's been kind of fun. And oh my God, I told you this offline, but I won't say the specifics to make you. I don't want to make you more uncomfortable, but I'll say that Lexi has been. Well, first of all, she got a job.
Hey, there you go.
Right,
good.
Right, so she got a job. She's on day 3 now. Day 4 tomorrow. So she just got it at Ulta. So makeup tips, whatever. So she got that. She's excited. She loves it so far. And beyond that, though, she's been obsessed lately about decorating, or I should say, enhancing the room of our living room, the main common area where it connects to the kitchen and all that. And she bought this strobe light thing. Not strobe light, because that sounds like it's way more ravey. It's not like that. It's more like a projector that just projects one image, and it's of like stars and like the galaxy with like green lights jetting everywhere. And she bought these strips of like LED lights that she's attaching to the walls, like a stenciling. She's like getting all this. She's making a room tone in our living room. That's her obsession lately, and she just changed it today.
That's kind of cool.
That's been kind of new for me, I guess. And then she wants to add, like I told you, I won't get into it too much. She's been getting into certain types of certain types of graphics and art, let's say, and of the animated variety. And she just asked me, like, hey, you want to get into this? I'm like, I'm not saying no, sure, let's get into it. But like, we're going to have to like tone that shit down when we have company. But yeah, she understood that.
You're putting it very mildly.
Yeah.
Very mildly.
I don't care. But like I said, I don't want to make anything worse. I already blew my load, so to speak, on the shower thing. So I can't.
No, go ahead. What type of
hentai? Fucking hentai.
Hentai.
She specifically said, no, I could pull up the text, but I'm not going to. She specifically said, hentai anime girls, naked hentai anime girls. She said naked specifically, not even like almost naked or anything like that. Naked. I'm like, okay. I'm like, that's
so
great.
For listeners who don't know, what is hentai?
Everyone should know this. Not should because they're like into it, but it's just so common, isn't it? I feel like it's common. Hentai is Japanese animated pornography, essentially.
And she wants to adorn the apartment with these posters.
Well, not adorn, like you make it sound like it's wall to wall like that, but yeah, essentially have like a few in the in the living room to go along with this new lighting thing she's got. Like that's what she wants.
Stars, shooting stars, Japanese animation porn.
Yes.
Now, Oscar, I remember in the last Holy Relic episode, you mentioned that your mom and your aunt are very involved in the local church community.
Did I mention that?
You did. So what would happen when your blessed, religious mom comes to your apartment, her son's first abode?
Well, she'll never see it.
And she walks in. Oh, okay, I see.
She'll never see it. Not because I'll never invite her, though I am inviting her less. It's more like I can pull them down. Like they would have to be scroll art, there'd have to be like those tapestry things that you just roll down and not actual posters where it's harder to get off. I'm imagining so anyway. I don't know yet.
I can see your religious mom leaves your apartment after a nice Sunday meal, and you and Lexi just run around the front room and start ripping little ribbons to unfurl the porn.
Oh no, we'll take them down. Are you kidding me?
Great.
How do we avoid that question? What's that? No, we'll take them down. Jesus, this is not Nam, Jay. We would have.
What are those things on your wall?
Yeah, what are those things? Or you'll see like countless like tacks on the wall. I'm like, what did you have up? I'm like, you're gonna want to know.
There were crucifixes, man. There were crucifixes.
All
Don't
of
worry.
them, right? But they all fall simultaneously. They landed upside down. We didn't want to scare you, so right. Well, they'll listen to the show, and then they'll know, right? Ideally.
Oh, that's true. We kind of.
I mean, they don't really listen to it, thankfully, but they could any minute today.
Yeah. Well, you let me know how that goes.
You want me to drop you a picture?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. You can put it on the website. No, I'm kidding. That's not that.
I can do it on Instagram.
That sounds crass. Oh, the Instagram. That's fine. Yeah. Okay.
There you go. Well, that's interesting. I don't have anything that interesting. I apologize.
Oh, stop it. Don't worry about it. Yeah, but that's all it's been with me. It's just been trying to enjoy more things in life and have more fun out there while I try to do other responsibilities. Not trying anything new. Just like it's going around, man. Just having some fun here and there.
Good.
Yeah,
we all need to have a little bit of fun.
I would say so.
Well, with that, maybe we should get into the contact info.
Let's do it.
The easiest way to contact the Supernatural Occurrence Studies Podcast is by visiting our website, chicagoghostpodcast.com. From chicagoghostpodcast.com, you get to all of our social sites, including Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, and of course, Patreon.
TikTok.
No TikTok. I don't have a TikTok yet.
No?
No.
Isn't your daughter on it?
She... partially.
Didn't we talk about this? I feel like we did.
She could view, but she can't post. My wife controls the TikToks for her. She could view, but she can't post, something like that.
Okay.
I know nothing about the app, so Katie kind of controls that one.
Right.
But speaking of Patreon, we are on Patreon, and for just $5 a month, you could have access to Patreon-only podcast episodes.
Uh-huh.
These are episodes that will never appear on our public feed. It's just for our patrons. It's our way of saying thank you. Thank you for supporting us, and thank you for believing in us. So check the show notes of this episode for a link to our Patreon, or just go to patreon.com/Supernatural Occurrence Studies Podcast and pledge your support for your favorite podcast. What do you say?
Well, what they'll say is we're late on this month.
We're very late, cutting down to the bone here.
To the bone. Nice.
It's just been so busy, man. So busy. It's hard to keep up 2 feeds. Yeah. We also have a phone number, Oscar. I'm not sure if have I mentioned this before, that we had a phone number?
I think you've had a lot of dreams regarding this, and I believe that in your dreams you think that you set up some sort of Google-based phone number that people can contact us on. But, when you inspect a dream, you realize that the area code is false. So it's a dream.
Damn it. Well, I should tell my dream. They say it's always better to talk about your dreams. I just made that up.
They mean to a therapist. They don't mean to the fucking public.
872-529-0767.
Yeah, that's it. That's the fake phone number. That's right.
That's Chicago area code 872-529-0767. Give us a call, leave us a message, send us a text. We'll read them and play them on the show. Or you could email the show, contact@chicagoghostpodcast.com. If you love our intros, let us know.
But if you really love our outros, don't let us know.
Oh, the outro. Yes. No, do not.
I don't want to hear it.
Don't want to hear it. Oscar, let's take a break and get into Holy Relics, Part 2.
Duh.
Shabreni mereshet ashe tamanu alai.
Listeners, welcome back to the show. Well, the lights are turned down low, the ceremonial candle is lit, and the drinks are flowing. Let's start this show. So, I want to start out by saying, Oscar, this is a part 2, right?
Part 2.
Do.
Don't say that. I don't know why, but French out of you is just more comical than it is. And this is a serious show. We're doing serious shit here.
Serious shit. Serious face.
Yeah, serious face. Yeah.
Sorry.
Game face on. Put your game face on.
Game face is on. In the previous episode, we talked about a lot of really awesome, real holy relics.
Really
right?
awesome, real. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that is kind of repetitive.
No, it's fine. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to bring it up and make fun of you. I shouldn't do that. You did.
Yeah. We started out by classifying relics, first, second, and third class relics, whether it was a piece of an actual saint, a piece of their body, whether it was hair or teeth or skin or blood.
Yeah,
that constituted,
that's right.
That constituted a first class relic. Whether it was something owned by a saint, a book or a piece of clothing, that was a second class relic. And then we talked about items that a saint might have interacted with being third class relics. Then we went in and we described some of those relics, whether it was Jesus Christ's sandals, his holy high steppers.
Right. You did say that. I think that's exactly that. You said high steppers in the first show, I think.
I think so. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I remember we talked about that. We talked about miracles too and stuff. Right. I remember.
Yeah. Miracles associated with saints. We talked about the multiple heads of John the Baptist. We talked about the holy crown of thorns, the true cross, all sorts of great relics. Right. So this is a continuation of that theme. And I've chosen 3 relics, 3 of my personal favorite, to talk about tonight.
Nice.
We're going to talk about the Holy Spear. We're going to talk about the Holy Grail. And we're going to talk about the Shroud of Turin.
Okay, I've heard of all of these.
Good.
Those are all pretty famous. A lot of MacGuffins in movies, too.
Right.
They're used as MacGuffins in movies.
Yeah. The Holy Spear. For example,
what's your favorite use of that in movie? Can you think of one? I don't know if I meant
the biggest one I could think of, and I reference it here in my script, is Constantine.
And do as I command thee. Yes,
That's exactly what I was going to say.
Yeah, because there's a real spear tip that supposedly pierced the side of Jesus Christ in a museum that you can see right now, on which the Constantine movie was based.
Right.
Really, really cool stuff.
Yeah.
So the first relic I want to get into is the Holy Spear, or the Lance of Longinus, or the Spear of Destiny.
That's another,
Yeah. Now, the Lance of Longinus, or the Holy Spear, or the Spear of Destiny, is believed to be the object, like I said, that was used to deliver the 5th and final holy wound to Jesus Christ during his crucifixion. Now, just so you know, the 5 holy wounds are the wounds left on Christ's body during his actual crucifixion, from the nails that were driven into each of his hands or wrists. That's 2 wounds. The wounds left on his feet, where they nailed him to the cross, that's another 2 wounds. And the 5th and final wound was, of course, made by the Holy Spear, which, according to tradition, pierced Christ's upper right side, likely penetrating his lung and his heart. And it's the wound from which, miraculously, blood and water flowed. According to the Gospel of John, blood representing Christ's human side, and the water representing Christ's divine side. Now, in all actuality, it's thought that Jesus Christ received in total 5,466 wounds during his entire passion. Remember, not only was Jesus crucified, but he was also beaten. He was scourged. his head was pierced with the crown of thorns, and he was forced to carry his own heavy-ass cross all the way to Golgotha, the crucifixion site.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this total number of wounds Christ suffered during the Passion, the number 5,466, was divulged by Saint Gertrude the Great, a Benedictine nun, mystic and theologian from the 13th century, who said that Jesus came to her in a vision and gave her this number. And I thought that was pretty interesting.
Hello.
Right? Now, getting back to the spear. Some accounts say that it was not a spear that pierced Jesus' side, but was instead a Roman sword that pierced Christ's side. However, the sword idea is highly unlikely. As we mentioned in the last episode, it's pretty much accepted that the crucifixion crosses were between 12 and 13 feet high, much too high for a Roman short sword to reach. Therefore, it had to be a longer instrument, like a spear, that was used to pierce Jesus' side. Okay? Now, the person that wielded the spear and delivered the fifth holy wound was a Roman centurion, or officer, known as Longinus, after the Latin word longus, meaning long, a direct reference to the spear this man carried during Christ's actual crucifixion. In some accounts, this is the same Longinus that helped murder Julius Caesar in the year 44 BC, Gaius, Cassius, Longinus. Now, Longinus was nearly blind from battle. He was a tough bastard. And miraculously, his blindness was healed when a holy mixture of blood and water flowing from Jesus' spear wound fell into his eyes, after which Longinus proclaimed, "Indeed, this was the Son of God." It's thought that Longinus, after discovering that Jesus was who he said he was, is the person who collected the holy blood that fell to the ground at the base of Jesus' cross. And Longinus is the reason some relics of Jesus' holy blood exist today, like the Holy Blood relic at the Basilica of the Holy Blood in Bruges, Belgium, that we discussed in the last episode, remember?
Oh, yeah.
Now, after Longinus exclaimed, "Indeed, this was the Son of God," he proceeded to convert to Christianity, and he left the Roman army, and he actually became a monk in Cappadocia, which is in present-day Turkey. During his time as a monk, Longinus preached his faith to anyone that would listen, for which he had his teeth pulled out and his tongue cut off. Now, unbelievably, as the story goes, even after having his tongue cut out, Longinus was still able to proclaim his faith in Jesus and his teachings. And for this, Longinus was ultimately beheaded, and he died a Christian martyr. Now, this is funny. It's said that a splash of blood from Longinus' beheading fell into the governor of Cappadocia's eyes, who was also blind, but not blinded from battle like Longinus the badass, but from demons. And the splash of Longinus' blood instantly cured the governor of blindness, much like how Jesus' holy blood water mix healed Longinus' blindness. Kind of a nice full circle there. And today, Longinus is known as Saint Longinus, venerated by both the Catholic and Orthodox churches. Now, the reason we're talking about Longinus is because of that spear. There are many stories that talk about what actually happened to Longinus' spear, where it wound up, and what powers are associated with it. According to the Vatican, there have been 3 relics believed to be the actual Holy Spear, or at least parts of the Holy Spear. In Rome, below the dome of St. Peter's Basilica, the Holy Spear's shaft is supposed to be encased in a massive marble pillar, one of the 4 pillars that supports the basilica's famous dome. This is the oldest known example of the Holy Lance, which has records verifying its provenance, dating all the way back to the 6th century. In short, the shaft supposedly housed at St. Peter's began its journey at the awesome Church of the Holy Sepulchre in Jerusalem. Then it traveled to Constantinople, then to Paris, and ultimately given to Pope Innocent VIII by the Ottoman Sultan Bajazet II in 1492, which is how it found its way to Rome and into the pillar in St. Peter's Basilica. In many stories and articles I've read about this version of the Holy Lance, it's often mentioned that the Catholic Church has never made any claims to the lance's authenticity. And I thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
Now, another location, which supposedly houses the tip of the Holy Spear, is Kharchespat, Armenia. The Kharchespat Spear Tip, which is housed in the Mother See of Holy Ekmedzin Museum in Kharchespat, Armenia, is thought to have been brought to Armenia in the 1st century AD by St. Thaddeus, one of Jesus' 12 disciples. Thaddeus went to Armenia on a Christian mission to spread Christ's word. And before he left Armenia, St. Peter the Rock, gave Thaddeus the spear tip as a holy relic to kind of aid him in his preaching of the gospel, kind of give him that oomph he needed to preach how he needed to preach.
Right.
And from there, the relic kind of hung around Armenia ever since. Now, to look at the Kharchespat spear, it's easy to doubt the spear's authenticity. Now, I'm not saying it's a fake. I have no idea if it's real or not, but the spear tip looks unlike anything you might think of when picturing the business end of a spear. The spear tip is almost roundish, and it's comically large. It really looks like it couldn't pierce anything, actually. Instead, it almost looks ceremonial. Some say the original Lance of Longinus spear tip was reforged, repaired almost, at some point in history, and that's why the Kharchespat spear looks the way it does today. But of course, that's debatable. And of course, check the show notes. I have pictures of these items there for you to see. Now, there's yet another holy spear tip, and this one is the most famous, with beautiful gold and silver wrappings holding the broken spear tip together. And the words, "Nail of our Lord," are etched into the gold. This spear tip is housed in the Imperial Treasury at the Hofburg Palace in Vienna, Austria. And actually, Oscar, this is the spear tip that was used as the model for the Spear of Destiny, as portrayed in the 2005 Keanu Reeves movie, Constantine.
Which is, by the way, based on a graphic novel or comic books, however you want to call it.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Did you know I think they're making a part 2?
I mean, it's one of those movies that has definitely grown in estimation over the years. Yeah, I mean, it was pretty popular back then, but I think it's gotten more fandom and stuff. The art is really fun. Like, it's a really cool art design. It's like badass. Yeah. It's like badass in a weird way. I can't explain it because it's not like a great movie, but it's not surprisingly catchy. Like, you want to keep watching it. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, that's how I feel. It had Gavin Rossdale from Bush. Remember Bush from back in the day?
No, I'm sorry. Who was he in the...
Breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out.
Oh, okay.
Breathe in. You know what I'm talking about.
Oh, okay.
He was Azazel, maybe, in Constantine.
Right, maybe, yeah.
Wore that real badass pinstripe suit the whole movie.
Right, he was one of the demons.
Yeah.
Right. I remember a lot of big actors that were to be, some of them were going to be bigger, especially Rachel Weisz, who was the main female lead. He wasn't that known.
And the Russian guy who played the devil?
Oh, no, he was well known. He was in Fargo by then.
What's his name? I forgot.
Peter Stormare?
Is that what it is?
Yeah, Peter Stormare.
And then, of course, the very crazy female angel that was in that movie. She's just got
She's super famous. Tilda Swinton. Yeah.
Tilda Swinton, that's it.
She's in everything. She's
most unique look ever.
One of them. Yeah, that's why you hire her. She can play an androgynous angel any day.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
That's her design. Like, that's how she was born.
And you're going to go to hell because of the life you took. You're fucked.
It's great. It's great for her. Another one that a lot of people don't know this. I'm sorry for this. What do you call it? Detour. But Michelle Monaghan is in this movie too. And if you
who that
is, I think she's an American Sniper. But more importantly than that, she's in the first season of True Detective. She plays Woody Harrelson's wife.
Oh,
If you
okay,
remember
okay.
her at all, because she's a little famous. She was in some movies. Like I said, I think American Sniper. I'm not sure, but I know her mainly from True Detective. And she was in one shot in that movie in Constantine. She played one of the demons that were towards the end, where like before Keanu Reeves went badass and killed them all. She was one of them.
No kidding.
Yeah, it was very
Did not
interesting.
know that.
And like, is that Michelle? And like, yeah, I checked it. I looked it up, and like, yeah, it's her. And uncredited too. She has no name in it. Yeah.
Well, this spear in Austria, that's what Constantine. That's what they're all after.
Right.
In that movie, kind of cool. Now, the Australian spear tip has a nail embedded into it, believed to be one of the true nails used during Christ's crucifixion. Hence that engraving I mentioned, Nail of our Lord, which was reportedly added to the spear tip by Holy Roman Emperor Henry IV in the year 1084. Then, around the year 1424, Holy Roman Emperor Sigmund of Luxembourg had the spear tip removed from where it was being housed in Prague and moved to the city of Nuremberg in Germany. And the spear tip was kept in Nuremberg until 1796, when it was once again moved, this time to Vienna for safekeeping, due to the French Revolutionary Army marching on Nuremberg. Then, in March 1938, during the Anschluss, when Austria was annexed to Nazi Germany, the Nazis brought the spear tip back to Nuremberg, where it was displayed during the September 1938 Party Congress, an annual propaganda rally held by Hitler and German Nazis. The tip was then transferred to a secret underground bunker underneath Nuremberg Castle, and it wasn't until the end of World War II, in August of 1945, that a man named Lieutenant Walter William Horn, a scholar and this kind of treasure hunter who served under General George S. Patton, found the spear tip in a bunker 80 feet below ground, and he gave the priceless artifact, the relic, back to Austrian officials, where it eventually wound up in the Imperial Treasury in Vienna, Austria, where it can be seen today.
Right.
Just an amazing journey for this relic. Now, really quick, I want to mention this Imperial Treasury, definitely somewhere I would love to visit if I wasn't afraid to fly. This is Oscar, this place is crazy, filled with tons of priceless artifacts, including one of the biggest emeralds in the world, weighing in at a whopping 2,860 carats. At the Imperial Treasury, you could see a narwhal tooth that was once seriously believed to be an honest-to-God unicorn horn, as well as a very special agate bowl, which some consider to be the actual legendary Holy Grail.
You kidding?
No, and we're going to talk about this special agate bowl here in a bit. Other specimens on display at the Imperial Treasury are numerous imperial robes dripping in golden thread and jewels, reliquaries containing a piece of Jesus' manger, and a nail that supposedly pierced Jesus' right hand during the crucifixion, as well as a reliquary containing one of John the Baptist's teeth. And again, I've left pictures of this holy spear and a few of the Imperial Treasury's precious exhibits in this episode's show notes if you want to check them out. Now, what I think is most interesting about this Holy Lance, or the Holy Lance in general, is the power it's supposed to wield.
Right.
You see, this persistent legend has enveloped the Holy Lance, which says, whoever possesses the Holy Lance and understands the powers it serves, holds in his hand the destiny of the world for good or for evil. Indeed, being in possession of the Holy Lance could even bring the holder immortality. But if the spear is ever lost, the holder would die immediately, according to legend. In fact, it's said that those who once wielded the sacred relic came to unprecedented positions of power and were hailed as kings and emperors and conquerors. For example, Constantine the Great is said to have had in his possession the Holy Lance when he popularized Christianity in the Roman Empire. Charlemagne, or Charles the Great, is said to have carried the Holy Lance through 47 successful wars, but he died when he accidentally dropped it. Attila the Hun, also known as Flagellum Dei, or the Scourge of God, is said to have held the Holy Lance as he brutally invaded the Roman Empire, killing upwards of 20,000 people, and some estimate up to 40 million people, based on Attila's political policies combined with starvation, forced labor, and executions of his enemies.
Yeah.
No wonder he was nicknamed the Scourge of God.
You know, it reminds me of the Elder Wand.
The oldest asked for a wand more powerful than any in existence. So Death fashioned him one from an elder tree that stood nearby.
In a weird way. Do you know, does that jump to you immediately?
Is that Lord of the Rings?
No, that's Harry Potter.
Oh,
remember
God.
the great...
I'm ashamed.
That's okay. I thought I wasn't sure if you were going to know right away. It's been a long time. But the Elder Wand is kind of similar, like bloody past of, like people who've used it and held it and great atrocities caused with it. And then obviously they have their own fall of grace because they held the Elder Wand.
I wonder if it was taken off of this legend.
I wonder too. It sounds, I'm not not saying it's one-to-one familiar, but it does sound familiar. A lot of the points you're hitting reminds me of the whole Three Brothers story. You know what I'm saying? In the book when I describe it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I didn't pick up on that when doing this script.
Mm-hmm.
Good call.
Yeah.
Now, this legend of the Holy Lance granting its holder immeasurable power is one of the main reasons the spear tip was moved from Nuremberg to Vienna in 1796, when the French Revolutionary Army advanced on Nuremberg. People were actually afraid that Napoleon Bonaparte would seize control of the spear tip and take over the world with it. That was a real thing.
You're kidding.
No. So it was moved to Vienna for safekeeping. Unfortunately, though, it wasn't, safe in Vienna either. Hitler took control of the spear tip when he annexed Austria in 1938 during the Anschluss.
Right.
Now, it is true that Hitler was very interested in the occult, and whether Hitler latched onto the Holy Lance because of its perceived supernatural powers or its symbolic power is unclear. What's really weird is that as a young man, that starving, moody, failing artist Adolf Hitler, he actually visited the imperial treasury at the Hofburg Palace in Vienna, Austria, and saw the Holy Lance, and he was immediately entranced by it. About his encounter with the Holy Lance, Hitler wrote, and this is a quote, and I'm not going to do a German accent. This is a quote. "I knew with immediacy that this was an important moment in my life. I stood there quietly gazing upon it for several minutes, quite oblivious to the scene around me. It seemed to carry some hidden inner meaning which evaded me, a meaning which I felt I inwardly knew, yet could not bring to consciousness. It felt as though I myself had held it in my hands before, in some other century or history, that I myself had once claimed it as my talisman of power and held the destiny of the world in my hands. What sort of madness was this that was invading my mind and creating such turmoil in my breast?" That's end quote.
Wow.
This is what Hitler said of the spear, how it affected him as a young man. Now, of course, when Hitler came into power, he went back to Austria and took that spear during the Anschluss.
Yeah, this must be where a lot of the comic books, or obviously comic books came before movies and stuff, but not before, but you know what I mean. And this must be where the idea of combining Nazism with supernatural shit must be coming from, right?
Oh, there is
like Hellboy.
Right. Yes.
Hellboy has Hellboy.
Good. Yeah.
The first Captain America movie, the Marvel movie, we know, where they had this whole science division devoted to finding these archaeological diamonds in the rough, right, and getting the power from them. In the case of that one, the Red Skull gets born, right? But there's so many other examples. You think of the parodies or the slasher stuff with the Nazis in space or what, or not that one. The wolf
The Nazi werewolves.
Nazi werewolves.
Yeah.
There you go. I was trying to think of it this whole time. The Nazi werewolves and shit like from experiments.
I'm feeling like Puppet Master had something to do.
I feel like that too, right? Yeah.
Nazi occultism. I'm almost positive.
There's a lot of that.
There is. I mean, just flip on the History Channel at any time of day or night, and you're bound to see a documentary about Nazis and the occult. I mean, this is a real thing. I mean, they were interested in some heavy shit.
I wonder if this is where like it started, like the original, like this is the little truth, right, in the nugget of the false, right?
It certainly could be.
And the fact that he came back when he got into power adds to more of that, right? It's one thing to just see it and its glory when you're a kid and visiting a museum or whatever, but like it's another thing to, as you're a dictator, you go back to the place.
That says something.
That says a little something. That's a little something.
Amazing, isn't it? This is real, man. Right. I mean, this isn't fiction. This is real.
Right. But you also said so yourself that people were, I mean, before all this, people were genuinely afraid of Bonaparte getting his hands on, you know what I'm saying? Like this was a real fear. And we could make fun of people from back then all we want. But, you know, it didn't stop right away because Hitler's fucking doing it too. And he was a real fucking dictator guy. So, yeah.
Yeah, and this plays right into my next point. You know, some people claim that Hitler's sudden and horribly dramatic rise to power and his invading and occupying of country after country, over 20 countries actually, was assisted by none other than the Holy Lance. Or in this case, we should call it by its other name, the Spear of Destiny.
Right.
And it is likely true that if the United States did not get involved in World War II, Hitler and the Third Reich could have possibly conquered the world. But on April 30th, 1945, during the final days of World War II, and after considerable bombing of Nuremberg, the United States took control of the Spear of Destiny under Lieutenant Walter Horn. And according to legend, just 90 minutes after Hitler lost control of the spear, that's when he committed suicide. The legend of the spear seemingly came true, that whoever wields the spear but loses it will immediately die.
Yeah.
Within 90 minutes in Hitler's case.
Right, within 90 minutes. Right, another big, more direct example in fiction, I forgot to mention, and I realize that the reason you haven't mentioned this because you haven't seen it. It's an iconic movie, the first Indiana Jones. Well, actually, the first and the third, but the first one, Hitler's obsessed with the Ark of the Covenant and its power, and that to have the Ark of the Covenant in front of the armies as he marches down to foreign countries to take them over, like that kind of thing. That whole thing is very much explicit as the main evil behind the whole movie, you know? And the third one, not so much, but the third one's about the Holy Grail, the third Indiana Jones, and then the Nazis looking for that shit.
Nazis. I hate these guys.
See? So, yeah. Crazy.
And that's way more direct because they use, obviously, fake and real, combinational fake and real facts and make something exciting and plausible, right? That's the whole thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, interesting.
Yeah, it's just fascinating history and stories that surround the Lance of Longinus or the Holy Spear or the Spear of Destiny, right?
Right.
Now, next I want to talk about another fascinating holy relic, the Holy Grail, or San Graal, the magical, mystical cup Jesus and his disciples drank from at the Last Supper. Now, no one's really sure what this cup was, like its physical description. Was it an actual gold chalice encrusted with jewels? Was it a plain old cup made from some lesser material, like stone?
Or
was it a bowl?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's something to that. I'll get to it. Was it a bowl? A dish? Or if you're a fan of author Dan Brown in his book, The Da Vinci Code, was the cup, which is an ancient symbol for the sacred feminine, actually Mary Magdalene's womb, which contained Jesus' blood. In other words, his offspring, Jesus and Mary Magdalene's child.
Right. I remember that now. It's all coming back to me. That book. Yeah, I remember now. And it's like it's a metaphor for that. Right. It's not an actual cup. Right.
Yes. And the womb, the cup, contained holy blood, Jesus' bloodline, a child. Fucking revolutionary claims right there. But you see, what a lot of people don't realize, though, is that the Bible doesn't make a big deal about the cup Jesus drank from at the Last Supper. The Bible never calls it the Holy Grail. Right. And the Bible never says it has any sort of magical powers. The Bible doesn't even describe the cup. Yet the cup from which Jesus drank during the Last Supper is mentioned in all three synoptic Gospels, Matthew, Mark, and Luke, and it's mentioned in 1 Corinthians. And for some 2,000 years, the cup has gained a mythical reputation, with Holy Grail believers going so far as to say the cup carries the elixir of life, akin to the fountain of youth, or drinking from the Grail will grant the ultimate spiritual or mystical experience, while still others say that whoever drinks from the cup will have their every need satisfied. Pretty bold and fun claims, yet none of these claims are mentioned in the Bible. Again, the Bible is very generic when it comes to describing this mythical cup or chalice. For example, let's take a look at the three synoptic Gospels, Matthew, Mark, and Luke, and let's see what they say about this cup. And mind you, these quotes that I'm about to read are describing the Last Supper, okay? In Matthew chapter 26, verses 26 to 28, it says, quote, "While they were eating, Jesus took bread, and when he had given thanks, he broke it and gave it to his disciples, saying, 'Take and eat, this is my body.' Then he took a cup, and when he had given thanks, he gave it to them, saying, 'Drink from it, all of you. This is my blood of the covenant, which is poured out for many of the forgiveness of sins.'" End quote. Okay, just a brief mention, cup, right?
Right.
In Mark chapter 14, verses 22 to 24, it says, quote, "While they were eating, Jesus took bread, and when he had given thanks, he broke it and gave it to the disciples, saying, 'Take it, this is my body.' Then he took a cup, and when he had given thanks, he gave it to them, and they all drank from it. 'This is my blood of the covenant, which is poured out for many,' he said to them." End quote. And finally, let's see what Luke has to say. This is from Luke chapter 22, verse 17 to 20. Quote, right? "After taking the cup, he gave thanks and said, 'Take this and divide it among you. For I tell you, I will not drink again from the fruit of the vine until the kingdom of God comes.' And he took bread, gave thanks, and broke it. And he gave it to them, saying, 'This is my body given for you. Do this in remembrance of me.' In the same way, after the supper, he took the cup, saying, 'This cup is the new covenant in my blood, which is poured out for you.'" End quote.
Mm-hmm.
You see, nothing interesting about the cup at all.
Right. It's just a cup.
It's just a cup.
Right.
And 1 Corinthians describes the scene and the cup in much the same way, which is really hardly at all. But that's not to say that what's happening with the cup isn't important, because it is. This Last Supper scene, and specifically the mention of the cup, which is believed to have held wine, and the mention of the bread Jesus and his disciples were eating, through the divine act of transubstantiation, symbolically and literally turn into Christ's body and his blood. Although the appearance and the look and the taste and the smell of the bread and wine remain just that, bread and wine. Now, I know that might be a little confusing, but biblically, it's a miraculous transformation of common items. So let's just leave it at that. What's actually happening during the Last Supper is the first instance of the practice of Holy Communion, something that is absolutely paramount in the Christian faith today. And today, when you take communion in church, when an ordained priest recites prayers over the Eucharist or the holy wafers and over the wine, that priest, just like Christ at the Last Supper, is symbolically and literally transforming the wafer and wine you're about to consume during communion into Christ's body and blood, even though it doesn't look or taste like flesh and blood.
Right.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So even though the cup Jesus and his disciples drank from during the Last Supper isn't placed on a pedestal or given some grand description in the Bible, the fact that through transubstantiation, it held Christ's blood, and it was an item used during the first Holy Communion, makes this cup, this Holy Grail, an extremely important third-class religious relic. And of course, I say third class because Obviously, it wasn't part of Jesus Christ's body, and there's no mention in the Bible of Jesus owning the cup. It's something Jesus interacted with in a huge way, thus making it a third-class relic. Remember from the last episode when we broke down the relic classifications?
Yes.
In yet another version of the Grail story, not only was the cup used at the Last Supper, it was also used by Joseph of Arimathea to collect some of Jesus' holy blood as he hung, dying on the cross during crucifixion. And if you remember in the last episode, we talked about how Joseph of Arimathea was responsible for taking charge of Christ's body after his crucifixion, cleaning it, wrapping it in a shroud, and properly burying it. So it makes sense that Joseph of Arimathea could have actually collected some of Jesus' blood because he was there when Jesus died. But did he actually collect blood in a cup, the cup? This we'll never know. So the question is, if the Bible doesn't glorify this cup, where do the legends of the cup holding mystical, eternal, life-giving powers come from? For that, we have to go all the way back to our medieval period and medieval literature, of which I'm definitely not an expert, to the authors and poets that created fantastic stories, collectively called the Arthurian romances. Stories about Sir Lancelot, or the King of the Lion, or Sir Gawain and the Green Knight.
Oh my God.
Stories of Guinevere, Excalibur, and stories of King Arthur and his court.
Yeah, I had an English 102 teacher in college that, not forced us because, it's college, you don't have to be there. Just a lot of medieval like literature. It was the whole year was that, or the whole semester was like that, and it drove me bonkers. I barely remember anything, but one thing I do remember is Gawain, the green guy.
So Gawain and the Green Knight.
That motherfucker. The poetry of it on that guy, learning what a sonnet is compared to pentameters. I don't remember anymore. I don't remember anymore.
Oh,
so long ago. Tetrameter. Sorry. So many different ways to tell a story. Or there's like verses and rules to the verses, right? Like a sin cane, for example, and all this stuff she would just beat into us. I'm trying to remember. I remember like the snippets. But
I was forced to read Sir Gawain and the Green Knight, and I fucking hated it.
Yeah.
Did not like it. Never picked up another Arthurian romance.
Eloise and Abelard. Did you read that shit too?
Did not. No.
Okay, I had to read Eloise and Abelard.
Did you Tales of Beetle the Bard?
Oh, the Bard. No, that's a fake one.
That's J.K. Rowling.
Yeah.
But so yeah, the Arthurian novel, the Arthurian romance writings, right? Now specifically, there was a story called Perceval, the Story of the Grail, written by Sheraton de Troyes in the late 12th century. And it's in Perceval that we get our first known literary reference to the Grail and its magical powers. In Perceval, no longer is the Grail a cup, like mentioned in the Bible. Now, in Perceval, the Grail is a dish, one large enough to take a salmon, in fact. And this dish is said to provide everlasting food and sustenance. And the only way Perceval, the hero of the story, can acquire the Grail, and thus all of the Grail's powers, is to ask a very specific question while at a place called the Grail Castle. Unfortunately, though, Sheraton de Troyes died before completing the Perceval story, so we never find out what question de Troyes intended Perceval to ask in order to take possession of the Grail. Instead, multiple other authors picked up de Troyes' story and ran with it, adding their own facets and flair to the Grail story. And ultimately, literally speaking, the search for the Holy Grail became the main quest for King Arthur's Knights of the Round Table. And it's really through these legendary stories, which obviously have stood the test of time. I mean, you and I read them, now, today, not too long ago.
Right.
That's how the Grail legend was not only born, but cemented into the collective imagination. With the end of the medieval period, the Grail stories kind of fell dormant, and it just kind of goes dark. That is until the 19th century. When there was a renewed interest in medieval history and legends and literature. And 19th century poets like Alfred Tennyson, Sir Walter Scott and composer Richard Wagner rediscovered the Grail and the stories about it, and they included it in their popular works, like Wagner's 3-act opera, Parsifal. And really, that was it. From the 19th century up until now, the Grail story, as this magical object traced back to Christ in the Last Supper, which can provide everlasting life and sustenance and the ultimate spiritual experience, was here to stay. And now we have things like Monty Python and Indiana Jones and even this podcast talking about it and wondering about it. Was it real? Is it real? And most importantly, where is it? So that begs the question, where is the Holy Grail today? Well, no one's really sure. Remember, no one really knows if the Holy Grail even exists today. But there are some theories, and there are some supposedly true Holy Grails you could visit today. First, let's talk about the one we mentioned earlier in the episode, while talking about the Holy Lance, the supposed true Holy Grail on display in the Imperial Treasury at the Hofburg Palace in Vienna, which houses the treasures belonging to the legendary House of Habsburg. As we already mentioned, this version of the Holy Grail is made from a single piece of agate, which is a mineral with a hardness that is likened to steel. Now, interestingly, agate's mystical properties are supposed to allow a person to discern truth, accept circumstances, and it promotes calmness, which is really interesting considering the events of the Last Supper. During the Last Supper, Jesus knows the truth that one of his disciples will betray him.
Right.
Judas. Jesus is aware of his upcoming death. And during the entire Last Supper scene, despite knowing that a betrayer is in his midst and that he will be crucified and die, Jesus, as portrayed in the Synoptic Gospels, is unbelievably calm and accepting of his fate. All characteristics shared with the supposed mystic properties of agate, of which this Holy Grail, the one housed in the Imperial Treasury in Vienna, is made of. I thought that was really interesting.
That is interesting.
And remember, this version isn't a cup. It's a bowl, very much reminiscent of the dish in the Percival story we just talked about. And it's actually known worldwide as the largest bowl carved from a single block of hard stone, measuring a diameter of 76 centimeters, almost 30 inches. Now, this bowl's size, combined with the hardness of agate and the fact that it was carved in biblical times, says to some people that the mere fact it exists is miraculous, because supposedly, at the time, man didn't have access to the technology needed to make such a thing, so large, so perfect, out of a mineral that's considered as hard as steel, yet the bowl exists. Even more strange, in the actual veining of the agate that created this bowl, in other words, in the stone's natural pattern when cut, the word Christ is apparently spelled out in Greek letters in the stone. It wasn't carved into the stone or painted. It just appeared after the agate was cut. The letters, it's like the letters had always been there, just waiting to be exposed. And it said that when you hold this bowl up to the light, that's when you can see the word Christ in the veining, which just might give credence to the idea that this bowl really is the Holy Grail.
Right.
Now, according to the Imperial Treasury, our agate bowl, possibly the real Holy Grail, was likely captured during the conquest of Constantinople in 1204, and later owned by Charles the Bold of Burgundy, whose daughter, Mary, married the Habsburg Emperor Maximilian I in 1477, which is how the Burgundy inheritance, or the riches of Burgundy, including our special agate bowl, made its way to the Imperial Treasury, where it can be seen on display to this very day. Really interesting.
Yeah.
Now, another supposed real Holy Grail can be found at the Valencia Cathedral in Valencia, Spain. Known as Santo Cáliz, or the Holy Chalice, the Grail found in Valencia is a cup, and it's also made out of agate, But this holy chalice is polished with myrrh, so it's super shiny. And the agate cup sits in a beautiful pearl, emerald, and ruby-studded gold-handled base. Now, the agate cup is what's thought to be the actual Holy Grail, not the base. The base is believed to have been added at some point in medieval times. According to legend, some 2,000 years ago, St. Peter, the first Christian pope, took the Holy Chalice out of Jerusalem and brought it to Rome. Now, back then, popes were the only people who could give Mass. So St. Peter and the rest of the popes used this Holy Chalice for the Eucharist because it was considered to be the cup used by Jesus during the Last Supper. Then, around the year 257 AD, when Roman Emperor Valerian began to persecute Christians in Rome, the Holy Chalice was sent to Huesca, Spain, because it wasn't safe in Rome anymore. And it sat in Huesca for a few hundred years before being moved again during the Umayyad conquest of the 8th century and wound up in the cliffside monastery of San Juan de la Peña in northern Spain for safekeeping. While in Spain, it's believed the chalice had become part of King Martin of Aragon's royal reliquary in 1399. And when Alfonso the Magnanimous took the Spanish throne in 1416, the reliquary containing the chalice was moved to Valencia and later given to Valencia Cathedral as payment for a debt, where it's on display today. Now, of course, this chalice's long, complex history might be really interesting, but it's nearly impossible to verify 100%. But this is the story of the chalice's history as told by the Valencia Cathedral. Now, in the year 1960, a Spanish archaeologist studied Valencia's Holy Chalice and determined that it was in fact made in the Middle East sometime between the 2nd century BC and the 1st century AD, which is really amazing because that fits the correct time period and roughly the correct location from which the true Holy Grail would have come. So who knows? Is this the real Holy Grail? Lots of people believe that it is, as thousands of people come from all over the world each year to view this cup. And it's even been used ceremonially by Pope John Paul II and Pope Benedict XVI. And the Vatican has officially named Valencia the City of the Holy Grail. Now, as a side note, the Valencia Cathedral holds a number of holy relics, including, get this, the mummified arm of St. Vincent the Martyr. Nice.
Wow.
And of course, again, check the show notes. I got pictures of the Valencia Chalice and St. Vincent's mummified arm there for you to see if you want.
Is mummifying the the body the best way to preserve it, at least from back then? Is that why it's mummified?
It's not. I don't know if you're thinking like mummy, like it's wrapped.
Yeah, I guess so. I guess I am thinking
no,
that.
Yeah, no.
You just mean
This
like
thing-
decrepit. Like you mean like at some point it just became like
stone.
like a dry stone kind of
Exactly.
texture. That's what you mean. I didn't instantly went to wrapping.
No, it's okay. I mean, think of it, Egypt, right?
Like
no,
gauze,
this is different.
right?
No, you're not far off. I mean, think of Egyptian mummies. No, this is looks like a hardened stoned arm. It looks like a zombie arm, to be honest.
Zombie arm. Yeah. That sounds like it.
Yeah.
Sounds like it.
Now, there are literally hundreds of claims of the true Holy Grail throughout the world. It's said to be hidden away deep inside probably the single most secure place on the planet, which happens to be in Kentucky, of all places. I'm talking about Fort Knox, the U.S. gold bullion repository. Now, we could absolutely do an entire episode on Fort Knox and the legends surrounding it. But for now, I want to mention that at one time or another, Fort Knox housed the Constitution, the Magna Carta, and the Declaration of Independence, not to mention billions of dollars worth of U.S. gold bars. Now, I don't know if this is true or not, but besides supposedly securing the true Holy Grail, it's even said that Fort Knox currently houses the Ark of the Covenant, another highly sought-after holy relic, and the true cross on which Jesus was crucified, complete with dried blood, which, according to the story, was analyzed, and the blood on the true cross was found to contain several strands of DNA, one of them encoded not on a double helix, like normal humans,
Mm-hmm.
but on a triple helix.
Oh.
Man, the fun we could have with that one if we had the time.
Right.
So maybe the Holy Grail is housed in Kentucky at Fort Knox. Or have you ever heard of the History Channel show called The Curse of Oak Island?
No.
Oh, I think it's like in its 24th season or some crazy shit like that.
Oh, really?
Yes. Now, it's rumored that the Knights Templar brought the Holy Grail to Nova Scotia and buried it in the money pit on the mysterious, deadly Oak Island. It's even said that the Holy Grail is hidden somewhere deep inside the ancient sewer systems underneath the city of Jerusalem. Man, what a shitty job it would be to try to recover that Holy Grail. See what I did there? And then there's something called the Nantios Cup, located in Wales. Now, this cup is more like half of a bowl. I don't know, maybe Nantios Cup sounded better than Nantios Bowl. I don't know.
Maybe.
As it's been badly damaged over the centuries. And it's a plain-looking wooden half bowl made from Scots elm or wick or witch elm. There's no gold handles, and it's not bedazzled with precious stones. And if you think about it, a bowl like this is definitely more fitting for a poor carpenter wandering around Jerusalem in the first century. Jesus, in other words, right? Now, the curious thing about the Nantios Cup bowl is that since the 19th century, miraculous healings have been associated with it and documented. If someone was sick and they drank from the half bowl, apparently they were healed. Now, another version of the story says that not only would sick people drink from the bowl, but oftentimes they would eat just a tiny portion of the bowl, like they wanted to get an extra dose of healing power. So they ate it, which is why the bowl is in such poor condition today. Pretty crazy, right?
I bet. Yeah. Let me just chip off a thing here.
You know, just be safe and just eat a little bit.
We're gonna go spelunking today. I'm just gonna chip off this thing real quick, make sure I'm safe. That it reminds me a lot of that happens a lot in cultures in general. Not that I have a reference to right at the top of my head, but I've read it and but I read about it and in history where people would react that way. They would see something and then take in like a disease, right? Or you think of Black Plague, right? And you start, doing things that relate to Black Plague or something like that, as if it were something with intelligence, something to sacrifice to, something to, people take an extreme that, this is a type of extreme, taking a piece of a cup, right? Because of its power that you believe it has, can therefore help heal you and whatever. A lot of people have that in history. They act to objects, so they give so much more meaning to objects and things or rituals as a Hail Mary, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe this will work better. Make it strong, make it more potent.
Yeah. Right.
So that's kind of what I have on the Holy Grail, and I'm curious to know what you think. What do our listeners think? Is the Holy Grail a real thing? If so, where do you think it is? Call us. Let us know. 872-529-0767. Or email us. contact@chicagoghostpodcast.com. We'll feature your best guesses on the show. I'm curious to know. Now, before we bring our Holy Relic series to a close, I'd like to talk about one more truly puzzling Holy Relic. One that has driven researchers, religious scholars, and relic hunters crazy for countless decades. And that is Jesus Christ's burial shroud, the most scientifically studied holy relic in the world, the enigmatic Shroud of Terrin. Now, quick fact here, the Shroud of Terrin has been studied so much that an entirely new branch of science was created specifically to study cloth artifacts, especially the Shroud of Terrin. It's called syndenology. The more you know. Now, to describe it, the Shroud of Turin is a linen cloth measuring 4.4 meters or 14.44 feet long and 1.1 meter or 3.6 feet wide, and bears an uncannily accurate double image of a man who appears to have suffered physical trauma in a manner consistent with crucifixion after being beaten, scourged, and crowned with thorns. Looking at the shroud, you could clearly see a man's face, complete with long hair and thick goatee-like facial hair. You could see his hands. You could see his glue tie, his butt, and his feet. Look really close, and you could even see whip marks and marks consistent with nails driven through the hands and feet.
Wow.
And yes, and marks consistent with something sharp having penetrated the man's head. Exactly what the wounds from a crown of thorns would have looked like, actually.
Wow, really?
Yes. It's literally a negative photograph of a man that had been beaten and crucified. The shroud also shows a lot of marks caused by human blood, fire, water, and folding of the cloth, all of which partially obscure the double front and back body image of this mystery man. Now, listeners, check the show notes. Look what I'm talking about. You got to see this. It's amazing. Now, to Christians, this shroud is incredibly important because Catholic tradition identifies the Shroud of Turin as the burial cloth in which the body of Jesus Christ was wrapped after he was crucified and before being placed in a tomb in Jerusalem some 2,000 years ago. The very same burial shroud bought by Joseph of Arimathea, the man who cleaned and buried Jesus' body after crucifixion, which we mentioned in the last episode. We mentioned Joseph of Arimathea going out and buying this shroud, this linen shroud, after having been given permission by Pontius Pilate to take charge of Jesus' body. Do you remember this?
And prehistoric eBay, he bought it right on sale.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yep. Now, this Jesus scenario is supported by many scholars who believe that the shroud's journey can be traced back to the time and location of Christ's crucifixion. According to one generally accepted theory, the shroud's journey began in Jerusalem in the year 30 or 33 AD. And it's important to note that it is believed Jesus was crucified sometime between the years 30 and 36 AD. So that fits. After being concealed for years in Jerusalem, the shroud would have been first moved to Edessa, now a town called Sanliurfa in Turkey, and then to Constantinople, now Istanbul, right, also in Turkey, in 944 AD. A burial cloth, which some historians consider to be the Shroud of Turin, was then owned by Byzantine emperors, but it disappeared during the sack of Constantinople in 1204. After Constantinople fell, the shroud was then taken by the Crusaders and transferred to Athens, Greece, where it remained until the year 1225. Official documents hold that the shroud was in France around the year 1353 to 1357, and then it was kept in Chambray, France, from 1502 to 1578, where it passed into the hands of the Dukes of Savoy. Then, from the year 1578 up until today, the shroud has been kept in Turin, Italy, where it's housed and on display behind bulletproof glass in the Cathedral of San Giovanni Battista, St. John the Baptist, in Turin.
Right.
And, of course, the Italian city of Turin is where the shroud gets its name, right? The Shroud of Turin.
Makes sense.
Now, what's really crazy is something called blood first, image second. Blood first, image second, when it comes to how the crucified man's image is embedded into the shroud. What blood first, image second refers to is the fact that there is a substance of undetermined origin that rests only on top of the thin shroud, as in the top layer of fibers. It did not soak through to the bottom layer of the fibers. And it's this substance that really makes up the image of the man that can be seen in the shroud. Now, this strange substance has been scraped off, and it has been analyzed, but again, the origin is undetermined. Now, the second part of blood first, image second refers to the blood found on the shroud. The blood of the crucified man soaked through the shroud from the bottom up, from the bottommost layers of fibers up through the top fibers, okay? Now, the blood soaking through the shroud makes complete sense when you think about a crucified person laying covered in the shroud for 3 days.
Right.
Of course, I'm referencing Jesus Christ here, right? Crucifixion was a horrible form of execution, terribly bloody. So a person being wrapped in a thin shroud for 3 days after having been crucified, it makes sense that the blood would seep through with the thin shroud, right?
Yeah, right away, I imagine.
Yeah. What doesn't make sense, however, is the image seen only on the top layer of the shroud, that unknown substance that forms the remarkable shape of a man, which happens to look an awful lot like the historical Jesus. What has been proposed by Italian chemist Giulio Fanti of the University of Padua is that the image might have been burnt onto the upper layers of the shroud by a burst of radiant energy, bright light, ultraviolet light, X-rays, or streams of fundamental particles emanating from the body itself. It's like something exploded from the shroud and burnt the image. What human body do you know does this after death?
Well, I know some, but I can't tell you.
Could this be definitive proof of Jesus' miraculous resurrection?
Mm-hmm.
What's more, biblically speaking, Jerusalem was absolutely rocked by an earthquake on the same day Jesus Christ disappeared from his tomb, resurrected, in other words. So the question has to be asked, was the earthquake that's mentioned in the Bible caused by the event, whatever it was, that took place inside Jesus' tomb, the event that resulted in the crucified man's image appearing only on the top layer of the shroud? Was the resurrection real? Now, I have to mention it here. Over the years, people have tried to replicate the images found on the Shroud of Turin, and it couldn't be done. Also, things like paint and charcoal and other primitive forms of artistic instruments have all been ruled out for having been used to create the man image. This thing truly is an enigma in all sense of the word. Now, I mentioned that the mysterious substance found on the top of the shroud was analyzed and deemed unknown, right? In 1988, through a process called accelerator mass spectrometry, the age of the Shroud of Turin was determined to be somewhere between the years 1260 and 1390 AD, much more recent than the time of Jesus Christ's death.
Yeah, by a lot of years, too.
Yes. Based on the years the mass spectrometry test provided, the shroud's creation should be sometime in the medieval period.
Mm-hmm.
However, other tests conducted on the shroud determined that a medieval age does not appear to be compatible with the production technology of the linen from which this shroud is made, nor with the chemistry of the fibers taken directly from the main part of the shroud. In other words, these things are much older than the medieval period, more like Christ's period. So we have conflicting scientific feedback here. Also studied heavily were pollen samples taken from dust found on the shroud, and it was determined that the pollen types were consistent with areas through which the shroud is believed to have passed on its 2,000-year journey to its final resting place in Turin, that long road trip the shroud took that I just explained earlier, right? And of course, human DNA testing has been done on the Shroud of Turin as well, which resulted in a pretty interesting find. The human DNA analysis detected sequences from multiple subjects of different ethnic origins from geographic areas such as Western Europe, the Near East, the Arabian Peninsula, and the Indian subcontinent. In other words, geographic areas through which the shroud would have passed while on its journey from Jesus to Turin. Now, some of the people associated with the DNA analysis include the Iberians, the Berbers, Caucasians, the Druze, which the Druze are people from Israel, Lebanon, and Syria. Indian was represented in the DNA analysis, meaning people from India, not Native American, right? Just a whole bunch of people representing different geographic areas were found in DNA samples. So what does this tell us? Well, considering the travel log, the Shroud of Turin clocked in getting to Turin, Italy, and considering how revered this shroud was, it makes sense that just a ton of people came in contact with the shroud over the centuries. And that's how so many different people's DNA came in contact with the shroud. That's one. That makes sense. But if the Shroud of Turin really is the burial shroud of Jesus Christ, the Son of Man, would the Son of Man's DNA be different from our own? If Jesus was truly the Son of Man, could his DNA contain parts of all people's DNA? Which, if looked at in this way, might also explain all the different ethnicities and geographic regions represented on the Shroud of Turin. Now, of course, this is a rhetorical question, but it's interesting to think about, isn't it? And that's all I got.
That's it?
That's it.
I think that the Shroud of Turin, but you said Turin, is that correct? I always hear
Turin.
Turin.
Turin, Turin.
I wonder which one do you think is the most coveted?
Out of
these
Holy
three?
Relics?
Yes.
I would say probably the Shroud of Turin.
What makes you say that, you think? Is it the elusiveness?
No, it's just been studied so much.
Is it the glass?
Yeah, the bulletproof glass.
Yeah.
No, it's just been studied so much that they created a specific science just for it. I mean, people want to know.
Right, yeah.
People want to know what this thing is.
Yeah. Do you think
that?
Yeah.
To me, that's the most coveted one. Yeah.
In history, it seems like not in history. I'm noticing more in fiction that Holy Grail seems to be the one that people want more. But I also think it's because I think there's a prize to it, right? Shroud of Turin is more, I don't know, maybe because it's so provable, people want it more. I'm trying to think of why.
I think it's the exact opposite. It's not provable.
Well,
and that's why people want it more.
Well, because it's not provable, that proves something, though. Like, right, it kind of says something, right? When people get mixed results on something, they tend to focus more into the belief side rather than the science.
I agree.
Scientific, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Makes me wonder about it. Have you ever? I mean, I know you've been to Italy. Have you been there?
No, I've never.
No, you've never been there. Okay,
I'll never make the flight.
I thought you have been in the past, because I know you travel all the time, so I assume you've been everywhere. Would you go there?
Yes.
In a heartbeat?
Fuck yeah.
Yeah.
I'd take a boat.
Oh yeah, that's right. You don't fly there. Yeah, you take a boat. Yeah.
No, I would never make the flight.
They have canals and shit. You can totally, they have seas.
I would be that asshole that I just read about in the news today who stripped his shirt off and tried to open up the goddamn plane door to get out. That would be me. Flying to Italy.
I didn't read that, or I didn't hear about that.
Yeah, I read it today. Some guy on Spirit Airline.
Well, it's because it was Spirit.
Yeah.
Have you been to Spirit? It's a shitty. Okay. So.
Oh, I've flown it a bunch of times. I never had a bad experience. But besides the point, yes, right. I would go to Italy. I'd never make the flight. I got to take a boat.
Yeah. I think I'm really fascinated by the spear, and I'm not picking favorites, folks. Okay, I'm also not very religious. This is not my forte. Not that I can't read into it or anything like that, but it's just not my forte. But what is fascinating is that I always find I love how history reacts to this stuff, and I love how people react to that stuff, especially when there's more history behind it. People tend to just do weird shit. For it. Weird shit about it, and I feel like it's one of those things where you manifest the power. It's not like there's power in it. I mean, I'm not saying there isn't. Belief system aside, either there's stuff, there's magic in here, right? Or we believe that there is so much that we manifest it because a lot of us in our world believe that there is power in the Turin and the sphere, and then the stuff. Like, I think it's one or the other. It's like a cycle, right? Like, we give it power by believing it so much.
It could be.
It's like the power prayer, right? Argument you hear, right? Where, right, if 10,000 strangers pray for you, your surgery goes better,
absolutely,
or whatever, right?
Absolutely.
You've heard that before.
Sure,
it's been tested. That kind of is true, right?
Yes,
because it's just goodwill, good energy going, right? As maybe Dave Odd would say, or Dave Black, sorry. And you might say that good energy is foretold that way, and this is like not exactly good or bad energy. It's just history, and a lot of wars have come from it, or not wars, but you know what I mean, like bad stuff. And it's just fascinating. I don't know where to go with that. I'm just saying, it makes you question a lot of this shit.
No, it's great. It does. It makes you wonder. It makes you question. It makes you believe. It might make you believe less. Who knows? But that's what's so great, I think, about this series.
Yeah, right. And
it touches so many emotions.
And I had no idea where you were going based on part 1 either, because I was like, okay, so he blew his load. I'm sorry, I don't mean to say it that way, but he I mean, you went this far on like the saints, right? You went this far on Jesus. You went this far, and of course, I wish I thought of it, but it makes sense. Of course, you would go with these crazy implements, all Jesus Christ related, of course, but but they were his, but also not his, right? There's another thing about it, is that they weren't his sandals. You know, these were things, like the cup was just something on the table. Like the Turin, the shroud, it's like this death shroud, right? It comes after his whole thing. And then the spear was shoved in. Like, they're never his, but they're the most powerful. It kind of makes me wonder, like, makes me curious about that. Because you would think his main garment would possess ideally more, but it's not, because it's not tied down to, the reason there's a belief with him because of his resurrection and all this stuff, because the spear is related to that, because it lets his death, right? And then the blood flowing in the water. And then from there you get to, it just makes more, just weird that the stuff that not the talismans, what do you call them? The holy relics that mean more, not just to you, but to a lot of people, are the ones that were thrust upon him.
Great observation.
Yeah,
you're right. And they're instruments that have something to do with the tenements of the faith, the death and the resurrection, the spear, the Last Supper, the Eucharist, the shroud. You know,
you say tenements.
Yeah, the most basic fundamental beliefs.
Oh, okay. Sorry, it threw me off. Is that a word that I know? Okay, no.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
All right.
It's fascinating stuff, man.
Were there any other like relics that didn't make the cut?
Yes, the Ark of the Covenant.
Why was that one? Why was that one not be cut?
Well, you know what happened with this script. I lost it halfway through.
I had to. So you did have something on it.
I did. I had to rewrite, but it was already 18 pages. And I just had to cut it. So,
well, 3 is a good number too. 3, it's always a.
I thought of what number. I think you said that in the last episode.
Did I? I don't remember.
Or you said something maybe in the Alaska Triangle, like, "Oh, why didn't you do 3 sides of the triangle?"
Yes, that's right. I did say
Father,
that. Then.
Son,
you're
Holy
right.
Spirit.
This works better. I think. I'm just curious as to why it didn't make the cut. In this case, it's more logical reason. Any other ones? So, any other big ones, or not big ones as this, but like other ones that people. Maybe forget about. I don't know. I'm sure you read more about this.
There's, and I shouldn't even get into it because I don't remember the name of it. But there is a burial hood that coincides with Jesus's burial. Yeah, that shows a lot of the same head injuries that the Shroud of Terrin does, meaning a man who was beaten and had a crown of thorns placed on his head, which, by the way, Jesus is the only person in history who was ever crucified with the crown of thorns. That was never done before or after Jesus. So there's a burial hood.
By the Romans, anyway.
Yeah. There's a burial hood that goes along with this story, but there's just not a lot of meat out there for me to bite into, so I didn't include it. But it does coincide with the shroud and the bloody images that could be seen on the shroud, specifically to the head, of course, because it's the hood.
Right, the hood. Right.
So I thought that was really interesting. I just can't think of the name off the top of my head. But yeah, the only reason I cut the Ark of the Covenant, it was strictly editing.
Oh yeah,
I just couldn't fit it in. But that too, what a story, man!
You actually came dangerously close to something that I'm researching. Did you know that?
No, I didn't.
Well, you don't know that. You don't know what I'm doing, but it's just so dangerously close. I had to keep my mouth shut for a while because don't say anything, don't. And then when I get to it, I'll reference it then, and you'll be awesome. Like, oh, that's what he meant. So close, Jay, so close. Like you're like right there next to it.
Interesting.
No, it's great. This is a great double feature sequels. There was something else to say. I find that, what I find fascinating also, that's a good thing, I guess, a good positive thing on the religion maybe or whatever, is that Longinus, that's his name, right? Longinus.
Correct. Yes.
I mean, you can easily see how that guy would be hated upon. You can see generations of villainous intent on the character, being seen as a bad guy for what he did. But the fact that, but the fact is that he not only took it back, but he became Christian and all this stuff.
Yes.
It's like history completely pardoned him, and then they made him a saint for it.
Saint Longinus, that's right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, that's a very cool, positive or reaffirming, life-affirming response to that guy.
Well, what a great point. That didn't happen to Judas.
That did not happen to Judas.
Right?
Right.
What an interesting point. You're right. History pardoned Longinus.
Right.
And Judas.
He was a heathen up until after he stabbed. It's insane. It's a crazy story.
Yeah.
But we don't villainize him. Yeah.
Yeah, and I've heard of the term Lance of Longinus.
Mm-hmm.
I never knew who Longinus was till I got into this script, right?
Oh, okay.
And I certainly didn't know there was a Saint Longinus. That I never knew. So that was really interesting to find out because, it plays right to what you're saying, how we forgave him and elevated him to sainthood.
Right. I mean, obviously he's not super famous because you had to look it up, and I only knew because you told me. But
right, yeah,
so he's not super famous. I'm sure he's taught around in general. You'd have to probably get into it, right, or pay attention in your catechism, assuming that's where you would get it.
I don't even know if they would go that deep. He seems like he would be like a deep cut saint. You know what I mean?
Or maybe some pastor will, use this story to make a sermon, right, or something, or a point, right? That's always a thing. But yeah, it's rare, but it happened. That's so cool, I guess. Nice. So good. So it's nice. It's very, very cool part of the story.
I'm just glad you like them. They were very. I don't know, for some reason they were two special episodes for me. I loved it. Did not get a lot of feedback on these two episodes, so I don't know what listeners really thought of them. But I'm glad you liked it. I loved it. So it's good to hear.
We won't know on feedback on this one yet until after we post it. Are you seeing the future in a way that I don't understand?
The future is bleak. We get no feedback.
Right. I mean, yeah.
Oh, God, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. It both is late for both of us a little bit. So I get it. Yeah. But yeah, no. No feedback for the first one. Maybe we'll get some feedback for this one. But no worries. I mean, I know it's personal for you, as I'm saying. And even though I and others don't really believe or follow this stuff, it is still a thing. They're real things. They do this, they embody this, they show this of history. And today, it can be moved again. What I also find fascinating is that there's a department in Italy or wherever these pieces and relics are in, right? There's a department of people or a wing of people or maybe one person, I don't know. And every one of these places that if earthquake happens or planes start dropping bombs, like his job or their job is to find this thing, grab it, and take it to a safe location. Like right away. Isn't that awesome? Like there's a group of people devoted to just this.
I want that job.
Like the crisis guys. Like all day, I mean, I don't know what to do between crises, right? But like, they must read a lot of news and like, okay, anything happening, right? And like, I wonder, like when times of like World War II, right? Like all these the marching of their towns where these relics are held, like as it happens, like their job is to immediately go there, take that fucker out and hide it and, take it to a safe location.
You're right. That is amazing.
They must drop everything else, like their families and what. I mean, there must be the devotion to that. It must be. I find that fascinating. That job is crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. Or how about the job of people who are assigned to go research supposed miracles, like the crying statues in Chicago, or the, bleeding Jesus crucifix in Mexico. You know what I mean? They have to go out and investigate and deem these things actual miracles or not. What the hell?
Right.
Sign me up?
Right. Or that you think of the little girl in somewhere that finds a rosary perfectly or something in some nature thing. And they think that she might be saintly or something, all the stuff you see it all. Yeah, I'm not saying if those are not legit or not. I don't know how people see those, but I've heard of them, and that could be a thing. But yeah, there's it's insane. These are insane things to think about. There's a lot of weird jobs out there. Is what I'm saying. So,
And I guess the other thing that I really loved about the series, these 2 episodes, is the fact that you could see these things. You could behold them with your own 2 eyes. You know, I thought that's just fantastic. Just fantastic.
That's true. Yeah, that's a good one. You know, especially when we deal with the supernatural so often. Supernatural is very elusive, guys. It's not allowed to see.
Great point.
I mean, we can see the hotel that shit happened, but we're not gonna. We're there to see about evidence and shit. Yeah, hard to see that.
Yeah, a ghost isn't going to walk up to you and say, "Take a picture of me so you can show your friends." You know,
yeah,
It just doesn't happen.
No.
It's never going to happen.
Never going to happen. Don't hold your breath on that.
But this miraculous stuff, you could see. You know, I just thought that was great.
I mean, now I understand why the Nazis were so fascinated. It makes sense now.
Kinda,
a little bit, at least one of them. All right. Anything else, Matt?
Oh, I'm good. I need more water. I'm parched.
Yeah. You sound a little parched. Me too. I finished my rum whiskey thing I was drinking a little while ago. So, should I take you home, or should you take me home,
Oscar? I think today I'm going to take you home, my friend.
Sort of got you just making it longer. Okay, take me home.
Jason Knight, take us.
All right. Do I have to say? No, I'm sorry.
Say it.
I forgot.
How about you say it? Let's see how it sounds.
All right, Jason Knight, take us home.
Yeah.
Okay. Which made me want to say duh. I almost said another joke, but when you said duh, it completely threw me off. When you said let's take a break, I almost said break me off a piece of that, But your duh really threw me off.
I'm sorry. I don't even know if I said it right. Is it duh?
Well, I'm not fucking French. I don't fucking know. All I know is that you know why in France they only eat 1 egg?
No.
Because 1 egg is enough. It's French for one of.
What? I missed it. Sorry.
No, I might have said the joke wrong. But 1 egg is enough as like a American way of making fun of the French language, I guess. Of means 1.
Oh, really?
I believe so. So 1 egg, an egg is enough. An egg is 1, I guess. That's what they say. I don't know. It's like a joke about breaking eggs or something. I don't know. I just gave you a French joke. I don't know anything about the French. Okay.
What do you want from me? I don't know anything about the French.
Am I here to amuse you? Huh?
Yeah. Dude, it's really weird. The moment I start talking for maybe a minute or so, my mouth automatically dries up. I don't know what my problem is.
Is this like lately or today?
No, like when I'm doing this. Like this is what was happening to me last time. I don't know if it's a late night thing.
It's not that late.
I'm like on the phone all fucking day. I don't know if it's my voice, my salivary glands. I have no idea. But it's really weird. Yeah. And it feels very uncomfortable. So I'm going to have to probably talk slow or something.
Okay. I mean, do what you got to do. I don't know. I mean, it could be because you talk all day at work. The last time you recorded, do you remember if you worked that day too?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because I think it was a Friday or a Thursday or something like that.
I mean, it could be a symptom of doing it so much, like earlier.
Or it could be, yeah. I could be dying. That could be too.
One is less likely, is my point.
I didn't have time to. Because remember, I had to rewrite all of this.
Right.
So the important part was the relics itself. I couldn't remember what I wrote for the intro, so we're going to have to freestyle it. You remember stuff from the last episode?
Yeah, that Brazilian chick and
Please don't ask me to remember their names because I don't.
The Bruges thing. I remember some things and
the blood relic in
Jesus
Bruges.
Christ, right? That was the one. I remember we talked. No, I don't remember everything. Sorry, but
all right, let's see how this goes.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, if you want, I can introduce you to the topic. No, that sounds terrible. Like I'm an MC and hang on to your hats.
Here's Cherry.
What? I mean, I was going like a baseball or maybe like a different kind of but you went straight for the stripper club. Okay,
I did.
All right,
speaking of Cherry, that's a movie we watched last night. It's on Apple TV with Tom Holland. A movie called Cherry. It was pretty good.
I heard that was good. I want to see it.
It wasn't like blow your mind, fucking amazing. It was good. It was good. No, I mean, seeing Tom Holland as a fucking fall down junkie was completely different, So that was kind of.
I mean,
cool.
He did that other very different kind of movie last year.
Yeah, what was it?
It's called The Devil All the Time.
That's it. I like that movie.
I like that movie too. He gave it a favorable review. I like that movie, and he was different, but he wasn't a drunk. He was like the hero, I guess. But he kills fools. He does kill fools in that one. So
fools were not safe that day.
No, right.
There was a hunting license on fools.
Nice. I was trying to think of one. I was thinking too. and the one I came up with, which is not very good because I'm just trying to workshop it in my head, was like hell made space for more fools. Like I was, I couldn't even think of it.
Could hell contain any more fools?
Right.
Watch and find out.
Right. Anyway, I cannot MC you. It'll sound ridiculous.
We'll figure it out.
Okay.
It'll be fun.
I'm gonna, just so you know, it's a little more of a quicker turnaround on this one. I've been using the same intro for 2 parts, so I'll use the same intro that I did the music, for the last one on this one, and then I'll try to re-include some of the same music in general. But I'll just I might have to wing it a bit.
I think you did good on the last one.
Yeah,
I liked it.
Okay,
good mood music to what we were talking about. It worked.
Yeah. Also, a lot of different languages there. And if people want to search the music ever or check up on whatever, or if they know, it all connects to what you're talking about.
Nice.
Oh, not all of it, not all of it, but a lot of it does.
You worked in some parts from Passion of the Christ.
Yes, I did.
Right?
The Aramaic scene in Gethsemane when he's contemplating and shit. Because we talked about that.
Good.
So I put that on there. And I put because we talked about Notre Dame and and how since it's burning, they've obviously done very well. Whoever restores it to getting it back to its whole glory, right? And one of the things they did is that they hired this amazing not orchestra, it's called something else, a choir, and they do a lot of not Gregorian chants only, but a lot of religious songs and normal songs too, British songs, and I put that a lot in the show. So
that's what it was. Okay. Yeah, it totally worked. It was mood setting. It was nice.
Okay, you're good. I've never done your part on that. It felt so weird.
That was awesome.
It felt like an alien.
What is this thing coming out of my mouth? It's weird.
Jason Knight? I don't call you that. Who calls you that? I imagine Katie calls you that in bed or something.
Jason Knight.
Yeah, right. Call me Jason Knight today.
Hey. You really did like it, though?
I really did. I had a lot of those questions before, but I wanted to save it for the end.
Yeah, no, great.
Yeah. I mean, I am tired, but yes, I really liked it.
Good. Yeah, I'll get this exported. I'll get the timestamps. There was the one screw up. I'll mark that as well. But I'll get it all to you tonight.
You're talking about the transubstantiation. Transubstantiation. That's right. I'm missing a whole part. Transubstantiation.
How would you say that as Marissa Tomei?
What do you mean?
Like, how would Marissa Tomei say that from like My Cousin Vinny?
How would she say that?
Yeah.
Why are you asking me? Never even been to New York.
Transubstantiation.
I don't think she can. I mean, she could pull it off. Marissa Tomei.
We saw her house in New Orleans.
Oh yeah,
we were stalking her. Yeah.